Did you
I
feel like you
feel
needed a feeling out process in the first, and you wish that you can speed that up?
yeah, but I was on the gas. I was pushing forward. I started like I was kicking, punching. I was mixing it up. Like I mean, the slow start was not a thing in this fight. I get it. In the past, I take a break. I'm kind of like chilling and checking. This time, I went straight to him and I started fighting. I mean,
All right, so Chito Vera just lost to Eamon Zahabi in yet another matchup where he refused to fight with any urgency, and he's once again being a sore loser about a fight not going his way. You know, I really hope that taking over a year away from the sport would have helped him improve upon his issues with volume and activity, but lo and behold, he's still the same exact fighter that he's always been. It is so bizarre watching this guy lose fight after fight because he's too busy thinking he's in a staring contest with his opponent, yet he refuses to address the problem, and yeah, in this video, I'm going to be talking about all this and more. But first, let's talk about the fight. So I've been seeing a lot of discourse about the judge's decision on this one, where a lot of people are saying that they got it wrong, and I've even been seeing the term robbery being thrown around, which I think is ridiculous. It was a really close fight. But all that aside, I agree with the judges. I had a 2-1 in favor of Zahabi, where he won rounds 1 and 3. I'm a big fan of looking up the media publication scorecards because it's a much larger sample size than just 3 bonehead judges, and Zahabi was scored the winner on 11 out of 15 journalist scorecards. I do think the first round could be up for debate, but even still, I don't think Chito did enough to earn it. He definitely won the second round just based on the knockdown alone, but that entire sequence was like 15 seconds of aggression out of an entire 15-minute fight. Not only that, Chito knocked him down and barely followed up on it. The only time he had the opportunity to finish the fight, he let him off the hook. After the first round, Jason Perillo straight up told Chito that he needed to be more active, and sure, his volume did go up a little bit, but it wasn't even close to what it needed to be. This guy has no sense of urgency when he's in the octagon. I think most people would agree that it was 1-1 going into the third, and while this guy was on the brink of his losing streak being extended to 3 in a row, he still didn't put his foot on the gas.
then when they say his name, I fucking say fuck everybody. I'm just fucking.
You were pissed, man.
Pissed.
You're
I was pissed. Yeah,
yeah.
I was fucking pissed. I thank God Elliot, the UFC security guy. It's it's someone that I love and respect, and he's a very cool guy. Thank God he was the man on that moment, because if I would have encountered a judge, it might would have slapped the motherfucker.
I don't understand this guy. I don't understand how he continues to be so pissed off after every loss when even he knows he didn't leave it all in the cage. He walks into each fight looking like he wants to kill his opponents. He openly disrespects his opponents in the ring, and he's even been known to throw dirty strikes, but when it comes to actually fighting, he doesn't back up his bravado with action.
So we did a lot of sprinting. We switched the long distance running, and we were sprinting twice in a week, and even the way my body changes, I got a little more caught up. And when I was sparring, it was, it started to show. I was a little quicker in the first round. When I was like, oh, that's what it was. Running for 3-4 hours, you're not gonna have fast twitch. You're gonna last forever, but we only fight in 15 minutes. So I think that was a good change to do. And at the end of the day, it's all mental. You just gotta do it.
I agree with Chito when he says that it's all mental and that he just has to do it. Because even though I really don't believe that long distance running was really ever the problem, like Merab is known for running absurd amounts of miles every single day, but if Chito believes that switching to sprints helped him, then that's all that really matters. What I don't understand is if he was supposedly sparring with so much more volume during this training camp, then where was it during the fight on Saturday? Whether he's doing long runs or sprints is irrelevant, cardio has never been a problem for him. I really think that he has some sort of mental block that convinces him that a knockout is going to fall into his lap and thus he doesn't need to push the pace. But it's gotten to the point where his patience has become delusion, and he's had 3 performances in a row where he lost because he never got started. This guy is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, and I gotta say, I think that one win over Pedro Munoz is a bad decision. I scored it for Pedro. He's fallen into this bizarre state of mind where he's a one-shot knockout artist with a touch of death, and all he needs to do is land once and the fight is over, but that's really never been the case. Sure, he knocked out Frankie Edgar and Dominic Cruz by head kick, but both of them had a million miles worth of wear and tear by the time that they fought him. This isn't to say that I think Chito's a bad fighter. I think he has a lot of really good qualities to his game that will make him competitive against the elite guys, but his inability to press the action makes him his own biggest enemy. And as obvious as that is to most knowledgeable MMA fans, this somehow seems to be lost on him because every single time he loses a decision, this guy turns into such a crybaby. Besides storming out of the cage when the decision was read, Chito took to his social media and outright claimed that he was robbed on Saturday, which feels like such a cop-out. And if you've been paying attention throughout his career, then you'd know that this is right out of his playbook. Just going back to his fight with Song Yadong, that fight was insanely close, and even though Chito absolutely had a solid case for earning the win, it didn't go his way. I can totally understand why he'd be upset at the results, but I also think he was unnecessarily salty towards Song, who fought a clean fight, unlike Chito, who threw an illegal late strike at the end of the second round. I will say though, watching this fight back, Chito threw a lot of strikes. I really have no idea what changed between then and now. Then there was his fight with Jose Aldo where he was doing really well, but ended up getting trapped in a body triangle for the entirety of the third round. Frustrated, Chito did a weird jerking off motion that was directed towards Jose, and he also threw a really hard elbow after the final bell was rung, which made Aldo throw his hands up in protest. His next loss was a split decision against Corey Sandhagen, which is undeniably one of the worst scorecards of all time. Whatever judge gave it to Chito in this fight should be fired. After the fight, Corey posted a breakdown of how the fight played out, and Chito took offense to some of the things that were said about him and called him out on Twitter. And then of course, after his rematch with Sean O'Malley, he famously accused O'Malley of greasing his hair so that it would be harder for Chito to grab a hold of him.
I'm not gonna find excuse, but matter of fact, his head was extremely greasy. Even if you see the post-fights interviews that you can go to MMA Fighter, MMA Junkie, his face was shiny. And after a fight, the Vaseline is over. It's really over. I've been in, 23 fights inside the UFC? Once you get out of the cage, after you sweat it out, there's no Vaseline. He was really shiny, and that can be something.
But it's like he barely even tried to engage in grappling throughout the fight, so it's kind of an irrelevant point and a bullshit excuse. Mind you, Vera did next to nothing not just in this fight, but in his previous loss to Corey, so the idea of him being salty towards the other guy, even though he just stood there like a mannequin, is crazy to me. And then last year, he fought Davison Figueiredo and lost a clear unanimous decision where he got knocked down for the first time in his UFC career. Now, this case is interesting because he fully acknowledges that he lost the fight, but at the same time, he pulls the excuse that Davison should have had a point deducted for throwing an illegal axe kick at the end of the first round.
Take away from this fight, or at least I want to start with, it was like that axe kick that he landed on the first round that wasn't an accident, that went straight to my face. I feel that should have been taken a point deducted.
But the thing is, Chito cheated in this fight as well. He grabbed the fence a couple of times and he even threw a late strike of his own at the end of the second round, so by his own logic, he should have also had a point deducted. Also, does anybody else find it ironic that Chito Vera, of all people, is complaining about strikes thrown after the bell when this guy has thrown more late strikes than anybody else on the roster? I'm not denying that Figueiredo is a dirty fighter because he totally is, but Chito is the last guy in the world who should be complaining about someone breaking rules in the cage. And you know what? I'm really happy to see that there are fans commenting on Chito's most recent Instagram post who are actually calling him out for his lack of accountability. It's nice to see that there are people out there who are sick and tired of hearing this guy blame everything in the world for his losses, when in reality, he can only blame himself. Nobody's out to get him. I watched all of Chito's losses before I started making this video, and I can honestly say that there's not one loss that he has in the UFC that I would call a robbery. He's had close fights not go his way, but to say that he was outright robbed in any of his fights just isn't true. The closest he's ever been to a robbery was when he almost won against Corey Sandhagen. And aside from finding him deeply annoying, I think Chito's also insanely frustrating, because there's no doubt in my mind that he has the ability to not only win fights, but he can win them in exciting fashion. He's done it before, but instead of trying to set up opportunities, he just waits for them to appear. And seeing as he puts zero pressure on his opponents, those opportunities oftentimes never come. But let's be real, I don't think Chito was ever truly an elite guy at 135. He had a really solid 4-fight win streak over guys like Davey Grant, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, and Dominic Cruz, but I wouldn't really say that any of those wins have aged well since. Honestly, Chito's skill level is gatekeeper status, but the UFC did a good job at marketing him as someone that he's not just because of his history with Sean O'Malley. I'm not gonna lie, there's a part of me that feels like the UFC did all that they can to prop up Chito as an elite fighter just so that they can have Sean avenge that loss. I don't think anybody can deny that he didn't deserve that title shot in the first place, and the performance that he put on that night didn't scream elite talent by any means. But every single time he's faced a top-level bantamweight, not only has he come up short, but the guy looks like he's doing a light sparring round. And I'd be fine with just accepting that's the type of fighter that he is if it weren't for the fact that he's such a D1 sore loser who can't take responsibility for his shortcomings. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know your thoughts on Chito Vera. Do you think he deserved the win on Saturday, and what do you make of the way he reacts to his losses? As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
What were your thoughts on Chito Vera finishing Dominic Cruz a couple weeks ago?
Cruz made a mistake, like 25 minutes, you put two professional guys in a cage, tell them to fight for 25 minutes, which is a pretty long time. And then Chito definitely must kick and punch pretty hard, because he's definitely dropped a lot of guys with those. But Cruz, I think, was winning the fight until that happened with Chito. So even those types of things, it's like Chito's doing great as far as getting W's, but he's not dominating these guys that if he wants to be champ, he needs to be dominating. Because Font, if you want to be a champ, Like, you got to beat Font decisively, and he was losing a lot of that fight. If you want to be a champ, you got to beat Cruz a little bit more decisively, and he was losing a lot of that fight too. So, yeah, that was an interesting fight. But Chito hasn't like shown that he's just like a super amazing fighter. Like, he's definitely good at winning and hitting people hard. But I think that that's like juice that you run out of eventually.